Welcome to the member portal of iifcertsearch.org. This portal is for accreditation bodies, certification bodies and scheme owners. Currently I'm logged in as a certification body and I'm walking you through the system from a CB's perspective. The menu items and the workflow is very similar for the other account types. So the first thing a user sees when logging in is the dashboard. On the dashboard is the big picture overview of the system. One section is about improvements to the system and new introduced functionalities, such as the data management in this case. We also have an overview of any outstanding tasks, such as completing the profile that we haven't done here. And then we see an overview of all the data that has been uploaded. And the data is certified entities, certifications, whether there are any inquiries, as well as some statistics and breakdowns of the data according to standards and countries. We'll continuously work on improving this section. Okay, let's look at the different areas in more detail. First, the data listings. In the certified entities section, we can see all the uploaded certified entities. After uploading the data through data management, we can see how the system, which certified entities the system recognized and how it links the certified entities to the certifications. The main purpose of this section is to see what has been uploaded. While it's possible to add and edit information in here manually on an individual unit level, it's not recommended, and the edits and the uploads should happen through the data management section. So in this case, I see that I've got one certified entities and two certifications attached to that CE1. The CE2 has one certification. And then we can look at all the details here, like then we get to the address details, etc. If we go to the certification sections, very similar. It's a list of all the certifications that have been recognized by the system, and it links it back to the certified entities. We can also make changes and edit some of the details in here, and we can see all the additional site information, assuming there are any sites that were uploaded. Again, the main purpose is to see and view what has been uploaded, not to edit. The editing happens through data management. The standards section. Here we see all the accredited information that the accreditation bodies have uploaded about us. So that's very important. In this example, we have two different accreditation bodies and two schemes and standards of one accreditation body and then another one from another accreditation body. Now, when we upload our own certifications, we had to make sure that the accreditation information from in here is matching what we are uploading in our certifications. The data management section. This is where we upload all of the data. The inquiries section. This is where we see open and resolved inquiries. The system allows user to inquire and directly communicate with you. This typically happens through the public profile page. And I'll show you this public profile page. So this is the profile page of the certification body I'm logged in with. And on the right, we've got a contact us form. And when we fill this out, the information will appear in the inquiries section. Now, how do we get to this profile page? There are two ways. One is whenever someone loads a certification entry, the certification body is listed. So in this case, if I click on this link, I'll get to that page. So that's on the certificate level. And then the other is on the certification bodies list. So on the top page, we list all the certification body, and if we click on the profile, we again end up on the certification body profile where we can get in touch and inquire about something. Settings. The accounts section allows us to create sub-accounts within the organization. So this is particularly useful when we have like different branches, and various branches manage their own data, their own user, their own certificates. So we can create sub-accounts. This is not required, but it's possible. So for example, if I go back to the inquiry page, we can see that we have here the option to select a branch. And in this case, I've created two branches, one headquarter and one branch for the Australian branch. Now you can create additional branches and sub-accounts here, and we can also select them and edit the information. Now with each branch we again can associate users to it, and we see which users by going to the Users tab. Currently I'm logged in as a user of the HQ branch, and if I go here and go to the User tab, I see there are two users, and these users are exactly the same as if I go directly on the Users tab. Here I can edit and invite new users for this account. I can also specify which roles and what user type. In the certification body profile, I can set the information that is shown in the public profile. I can also see what my accreditation status is, so these two ABs, and I can also see what agreements I've signed and the link to my live profile. Under settings, I can change the user information of the currently logged in user. So in this case I could add a photo, but I can also change the user information or the password information. I changed the password under the security settings, and there are options for the authenticator as well as an overview of the account login activities. Also, the notification settings are managed here. And last but not least is the user guide. So this is a link to the user guide, as well as the digital badge, so the IIF Search mark. If anyone wants, they can include a digital badge on their website, and here are the instructions on how to integrate it into your own website. In the data management section, it's about uploading the certification data. As you can see, we have three different upload mechanisms. First, there is the file upload, which is uploading a file through the web UI, and I'm going to show you how just in a minute. The second is FTP upload. In this case, you are hosting an FTP server, and we are the FTP client calling your FTP server, retrieving all the files that are there, and then uploading this information. And the third is you are calling our API. Now, from a format perspective, we have an Excel format that we support and an XML format. Both Excel and XML can be used for the file upload or the FTP upload. When dealing with the API, we are using a JSON structure. Okay, so let's go through the different sections here and then let's look at an example. First section, the FTP settings. If we choose to use the FTP settings, we can add here our FTP server. So by just editing this information, we can test whether the connection is successful. And we can also define a list of files that are to be included. And the FTP setting is done periodically. So actually, it is at 1 a.m. every day, UTC, when the syncing is happening. So once a day. Next up is the API integration. Here we can just generate the API key that is required to use the API. Next up is import activities. This is where you can see all the previous imports and their status, as well as potentially like fixing previous imports. And then there is the global import settings. And we'll get to talk about this shortly. The one that I haven't shown you yet is global mapping, and this is probably the most important one. In the mapping section, we make sure that whatever data structure, like data values, as well as column values and column attributes in Excel or XML that you are using is compliant with what we are expecting. And if there is a difference between what you provide and we expect, it's possible to map it here. So you don't need to change all your values. It's possible that you are doing a mapping. A perfect example here is a value mapping. And in this case, it's in the source data, the value is written with a standard name and version with a colon in between. And then we expect it without a colon. Now when we say we, it's actually the accredited information. So if we go back to standards, we can see that we have been accredited for ISO 9001 space 2015. And if we now go back, we see that the system expects this way, and we've provided it this way. That's why we had to do a data mapping. The same goes for the field mappings or column mappings. In the source, for example, we had client, country, client postcode, state, city, street, and we expect certified entity, country, certified entity, postcode, etc. And so this is just mapped once, the very first time. Once it's there, it's going to be reused. So this mapping is reused in all different upload mechanisms. Now, which mechanisms should you choose? This totally depends on how much data you have and how easy it is for you to, like, the ideal case is API integration. It's happening on a regular basis and it's probably the fastest. The second best is probably the FTP upload because it's all automated, whereas the manual file upload, there is a manual aspect to it, and ideally the upload is automated. Nevertheless, I'll show you now how to do a manual file upload. Before I do this, I just want to tell you that we've also recently launched a Sandbox environment, and if you're interested to test your uploads in an environment that doesn't affect any of the live data, please contact us at info@iifsearchsearch.org. Okay, so let's assume now we would like to do a Excel manual file upload. Starting point is to download the Excel template version. I've done this, and if you get an Excel, you end up with a file that has multiple columns and 3 sheets. So the first sheet is about certification data, the second is about sites data, and then the third is about standard and scheme data. Now, it is a bit tricky to know what goes into each column. That's why I want to show you how you find out and get additional information. So you can always navigate through the user guide or open it directly from within this menu. In here, in the data import, we can go to the templates that we just looked at, and we have data samples for both Excel as well as XML. And if we download the Excel, which I've also done, we end up with something like this, where we have a description for each column. And now it's much easier to understand what information needs to go into each column. Okay, so let's assume we've looked through this, and now we are ready to fill out the detail. What I want to do is I just want to explain you 2 important concepts. So the first is the certification identity number and certificate number. So the columns certificate number, status, type, scope, etc. That's what's on the actual certificate. Now, besides this information, we also need to somehow refer to this certificate. And because the certificate number is not always stable, it's possible that this changes sometimes, we introduce the concept of a certification identity number. So in Excel, we don't have a hierarchical structure, but it's possible to have multiple sites for one certificate. It's also possible to have multiple standards for one certificate. And in order to cross-reference this certificate here, what we do is we use the certification identity number. So if I go to the next tab, and let's just, this CIN, certification identity number, it starts with A8. If I go to additional sites, I have to put the same number in here, and now I can add the site information. And the second line is again a second site for that same certificate. And this is done through the certification identity number. The same applies to the standards. The first line is for the first certificate, and then the other lines are for some of the others. In total, we have 3 certificates that we want to upload. Now, the same concept applies to certified entities. So the first few columns were about the certificate, and then from column I, we have information about the certified entity. Now, exactly the same with certified entities. It's possible that the address changes, and it's possible that the name changes. And we need a stable identifier. So that's why we have the certified entity unique ID. This ID is being used, and we can change the name, and we make sure that we don't end up with duplicate data. So it's important that you use the same unique ID whenever you upload. Okay, this is about the IDs, and now one more thing about the English name. So the information that we put here is what's on the certificate. And it's possible that the entity name is not in English. And so what we can do is add the English name in this field. Now I already want to tell you that we will have another version of the template that allows you to have translated field, multilingual field for every single field. At the moment, we only offer this for the certified entity name. And so all the rest is about the entity information as well as the accreditation body. Okay, so let's have a look on how this works. Now before we do so, I just want to show you how the mapping works. And so I want to go to global mapping, and I'm going to delete this. So you see the very first time that the system picks something up and says, oh, this is unexpected, please, can you help me? So we go back and we now upload this Excel file. And we only have 3 records, but we allow up to 50 megabytes of data, as well as up to 10 files in a batch. So we allow batches to just to combine multiple files together. Now there is also the import setting that we saw before, and we can say whether the program should automatically import data even if there are errors, or whether it should not import anything until all the errors are fixed. In this case I say please automatically import the data. Okay, I'll get this started. And so what the system does is, first it uploads the files, and then it does those checks. The first check is the column mapping. Does the column mapping that we provide in the Excel file match what the system is expecting? And then the next one is the data mapping. Are the data fields in line with what the system expects? And in this case, the system expects the information that's in the standards section, which has been uploaded by the accreditation bodies. So the first check is already successful. And now there is an error. And what we can see is one error in the data mapping. And because we said please continue with the import, it's possible for us to already or to continue importing this data. So we actually see that one record has been imported, and then that we have one error in the mapping. If we go back, we can see that we have a partial imported status. And if we go and look at our certified entities, we only have 1 out of 2. And in our certificates, we also only have 1 out of 3 certificates. So what we now can do is, we can go back, open this partial import, and fix those errors. Now, as we've deleted this rule, we see that in the source, this is what's being provided, and we now need to map it to the target. And so the target is automatically picked up from the standard section. So we'll do this, and we apply this mapping information here. By applying this, we now can continue and also upload this information. or not upload, sorry, import this information. And if we now go back to the import activities, we can see that there is all the records that have now been uploaded and imported. And if we go back to the certification overview, we can now see that we have all 3 certificates uploaded in the system. And the same goes for the certified entities. We now have both certified entities in here. And the status has changed from partially imported to fully imported.